All right, so just figured I'd make a quick video here. If anyone's wondering what I've got the whole suit on here for, unfortunately, I had to attend a funeral today. Had a death in the family. COVID-19 has taken another person. This past Saturday, one of my aunts who lived, or aunts, if you want to use proper English, I'm from the South, I say aunt. One of my aunts that lived in Easley, or the Pickens area of South Carolina, she had been battling COVID, and I think she actually got past the COVID part, but she wound up with the COVID pneumonia. It took a toll on her, and she wound up having blood clot issues. Blood pressure was dropping. She was on a ventilator, and this past Saturday, she passed away and left us. And at the same time as that's happening, one of the past grandmasters for the Masons in South Carolina, a guy I've known, he used to work with me at one of my previous jobs. He was obviously way higher up the chain than I ever was there, but he worked on the floor right above me. But he's been battling issues with COVID lately as well. He is on a ventilator. So, I mean, this stuff is still, even if they say the numbers are dropping, it's still getting people, man. But in the middle of all this, I saw a tweet. Came out from the POTUS account. Now, I don't know if Biden himself tweeted this. He probably didn't. My guess is Biden probably doesn't tweet very much of his own stuff, even on his own account. I'm not sure on just how coherent he actually is to do it, but he or one of his staff or whoever's in charge of handling the POTUS account put out a tweet talking about how if you spent $3 this morning on coffee, you have spent more money than millionaires and billionaires have paid in taxes for the last few years. Okay, he is absolutely correct. But there is a massive hypocrisy and an irony in the fact he is even saying that. And what is that? Well, let's see. Biden, who has been in charge, or at least held some sort of important political office for decades and decades and decades and decades, and has been around when these tax loopholes that just keep giving money away to people, like, I'm guessing Jeff Bezos might be one of the people you're referring to, who has been around for decades? Well, there's a few people. Let's see, Pelosi, Schumer's been around for a while, Dianne Feinstein, there's another great one. And you. And what do you all have in common? You're a bunch of ancient fossils. You've been around for forever, and you're getting nothing done. Now, sure, okay, if you want to split hairs, they get some things done. Most of it really isn't that good. It really isn't that good. You make a lot of campaign promises that you don't deliver on. Now, you pulled out of Afghanistan. You could have did a little bit better job, but I don't even engage too much into that department. People had their criticism. I'm just happy we're out of the war. But then you claim we're war-free. Well, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. You know, and I retweeted what he said, but, and I'm, paraphrasing here, because I don't remember exactly how I put it word for word, but I said something along the lines of, this would be like Coca-Cola coming out and criticizing people who drink sodas and sugary drinks because it's unhealthy. The guy who has been around for decade after decade while crappy tax legislation has been put into play is now going to tell us how bad the tax system really is. So, again, massive irony, massive hypocrisy. And then I went on later in the tweet, I said, you have been responsible for a lot of this stuff in some way, shape, or form. But, so, either you're trying to gaslight us with this tweet, President Biden, or you didn't take your meds and just forgot that you had a hand in all of this for the last few decades. Now, I don't know which it is. And that last one is definitely me being sarcastic and being a smart aleck. But at the end of the day, there is some truth there. Joe Biden, even if you think that more taxes should be put on millionaires and billionaires, okay? Biden, you haven't even proposed raising it back to the way it was pre-Trump. Oh, you want to do some things? Sure. You said you want to eliminate the Trump tax cuts, okay? We're going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. Except what you were taking, I think it was corporations back to, wasn't even what they were under President Obama. Now, some people might disagree with me on this. I believe in taxing rich millionaires and billionaires more. But I think when you tax corporations, you get into a little bit of a different territory, because when we're trying to compete with a country like China or whatever, you've got to have financial incentive for them to keep jobs here. They can go there and they pay a lot less labor. They don't have the benefits to deal with, especially if they were to go to Mexico. Okay? So how do you financially convince someone to keep their company here without doing necessarily trade war type crap? Well, that's through the tax stuff. And for those who say, well, they need to pay their taxes to fund this or that program, okay, maybe they do. But how about we just rechannel some of that tax money that we're wasting on war first? Let's see how much that could pay for before we start, beating the stick of more taxes, more taxes, more taxes, more taxes. The point is, it doesn't really matter. Wherever you stand on the issue of raising or lowering taxes, there is this blatant hypocrisy from people like Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. And really, there's hypocrisy on the Republican side, too. I'm independent. But the Democrats are all the time just non-stop telling us how we got to make sacrifices for our country. We've got to band together. We've got to get justice. We've got to do A, B, C. And when we get that done, we can work on X, Y, and Z. And every single time they get elected, they just take a big fat dump on the country, their base, and somehow people just keep voting for these. I understand it to an extent, but I guess because of the way my brain is wired, no matter how hard I try to fully understand it, I just can't. And it honestly really just makes me depressed with society. And it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in our society either, that people can't wake up to get these people out of office. You can't even get rid of people who have got one foot in the grave. Seriously. These people have been in office for a generation or two. And they're not going anywhere anytime soon unless the Grim Reaper and God calls their number. Okay? They're going to keep hanging around like a bad disease. Okay? Matter of fact, they're going to hang around probably like COVID is going to at this point. Okay? They're not going anywhere. And people will not vote them out of office. And yet, he comes out, he gives the talking point. We've got to make the rich pay their fair share. Why are they not paying their fair share? Because I helped them not pay their fair share, but now I'm going to make them pay their fair... What? What world is this where you got this notion that the people who created the problem are now going to be the same people whose mental faculties are not even hardly there anymore, but they're going to be the people to fix the problem. Does that make sense to anyone? No, it's not going to happen. I don't care what the Democrats do. I don't care what Joe Biden does. I can guarantee you what they're not going to do is they're not going to try and overall, as a whole, do the right thing for our country. You might get little steps of incrementalism here, but I got news for you. That incrementalism is going to be just enough to do some good, but not convince enough people to keep their freaking butt in office. And then guess what? The opposite party comes in. They don't support that kind of thing, and they'll get rid of it. And you're back to square one. So, if some miraculous thing were to happen, if the Red Sea parts like it did for Moses, okay? The sky rumbles with thunder and the lightning strikes, and this divine intervention takes place. And you just so happen to get better child care, even improvements to the healthcare system. Let's say we were to get a Medicare for all system. Let's say we got one that actually works the way it should. Because there's a lot of people who just, we're not bought and sold that the government that we've got today could fully handle operating it. And I kind of believe that because I see how they handle other things like Social Security. But let's just say that a lot of these progressive things that people want, better paid family leave, easier access to college. Let's say that all these things truly came to pass. Let's just say it happened for argument's sake here, okay? They're not going to get a lot of them done. Pick one, that might be the one that gets done, okay? And when it happens, it ain't going to be enough. Sooner or later, the Republicans will come back into office, and the Republicans will argue, socialism bad, we can't have that, costs too much, we can't afford it. Of course they can't afford it because they're spending money on war. Hell, we probably won't be able to afford it because we'll need to invade Afghanistan again. Okay? But they'll come into office, they'll lecture the right-wing base who, kind of like the old, people I grew up with in the South, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard. You shouldn't have to have a lot of handouts. There are a lot of people who do think that way, and there is some truth to that statement, but it's not that cut and dry, especially these days. There's a lot of nuances to that conversation because you have an entirely rigged system and a terrible education system. So how do you get educated properly enough to really just go out there? I mean, they're teaching you crap in school nowadays, so there's a lot more nuance to that conversation, I would say, than there was once upon a time. But they're going to come in, they're going to say it costs too much, even if they don't eliminate the program. The budget for it will then get slashed. Who it will go to will then be slashed. They'll cut away, just like they did with Medicare, just like they did with Social Security. Cut funding. Cut the entitlements, I think is how Mitt Romney would say it, right? We got to cut the entitlements. They'll do that. And then when the Republican is on their last legs and the Democrat is more than likely going to come back into power, guess what? You're not going to get the next step, progressives. It ain't going to happen. You know why? Because they're then going to run on rebuilding the thing that the Republicans slashed because the Democrat only pushed to barely get that damn one thing done. Wow. That's wonderful. For all the people who think this incrementalism idea is going to work, it don't work. Because you gain a little ground and you lose a little ground. So when you gain a little ground back, guess where you're at? You broke even. Except half the time, you really don't break even because somehow in the mix of this back and forth ping pong freaking political badminton contest, you wind up actually with worse situations. Hint, hint, we got a higher cost of living. Our life expectancy is going down. More and more people are dying from medical debt and medical bankruptcies, and they can't afford it. So more and more people are dying at a younger age every year, dying in a load of debt, not able to afford their bills, not able to afford buying food and medicine. The education system is broken and it sucks. So in the mix, we come out worse. But ideally, the best thing you're going to get out of this two-party crap is an even break. And we're not even getting that. We're actually just keep sliding somehow in the worst direction. I got my ideas why we keep sliding in that worst direction. Turns out, because they're both bought off by the rich and corrupt. Oh, the same people you want to fix the tax system on, right, President Biden? Because that's what we need to do. So I can trust you to hold people accountable that are funding you. Wow. Now, the only thing you're probably going to hold accountable would be somebody like the NRA. But Goldman Sachs, big banks, no, don't see it happening. Even the military-industrial complex. You pulled out of Afghanistan. You pissed in their cornflakes on that deal, but you still got other wars going on. It's not like their profits are just drying up entirely. And, what would you know? Bigger, bloated military budgets still continue to be passed, even under you. So the military-industrial complex, yeah, they're certainly not hurting for cash. They're going to be okay. So again, what is going to come out of this? It is high time anybody who wants actual change in this country get out of the kiddie table and wake up and figure out this shit ain't working. It ain't working. And maybe third parties ain't going to work either. Maybe we've got to do this thing the old-fashioned way. Maybe it does involve getting out in the streets. Maybe it does involve more protests. Maybe it involves a general strike. Maybe it involves all these other things I've heard people talk about. Maybe that's what it's going to come to. But this idea to just vote for these two parties because you like the other party even less, yeah. You might as well expect this mess to continue. And again, ideally, Trump was hated by a lot of people. Now, his base loved him. Biden was not really that loved. Everybody just wanted rid of Trump. Everybody said, we just got to do whatever we have to do to get rid of Donald Trump. They wanted that man gone, something fierce, okay? And they had to have him gone. So when Biden came in, because of the Trump derangement syndrome, Biden's poll numbers were doing pretty good, okay? Yeah, they're going down. Recent studies from a Quinnipiac poll show Biden's at what, like 40% approval rating, and Trump is at 41. The guy who was so despised, and you might as well say that's almost tied, but still, the guy that was so despised now has a 1% lead in approval ratings in a poll over Joe Biden. Yeah. So, if that be the case, then again, you would think people would start voting for alternatives, because if they don't like Trump and they're figuring out we really don't like Biden any better, so maybe we need to look for someone else. Unless I see something change, I don't see it happen. I don't see the Green Party whipping anything together to get something done that quick. The Libertarians seem to be busy battling still amongst themselves. So I don't know what they're going to do, but we'll see. But they certainly did not perform very well at all in this election cycle. Jo Jorgensen really did not get much done. Now, does that make her a bad person, a bad candidate? I don't think so, but the Libertarians have really got to work on their messaging to the public if they're wanting to win voters. And I think at the end of the day, too, they might even have to develop more as a party, because right now, you got a massive base you could play to. The problem is, that base don't agree on the 30 philosophies of capitalism. You know, a lot of them believe capitalism is a terrible idea. So maybe a serious third party might need to find the areas where we can all have agreement. Ending the war on drugs. Education reform. Criminal justice reform. Ending the wars. And take things like that and try running on it. But is anybody going to try and do that? I don't know, because then you got the People's Party out there. They claim that they are the People's Party, so maybe they would do something like that, right? Except it seems like a lot of what they're doing is smoke and mirrors, kabuki theater, and they seem to only want to play to the left. Turns out there's a lot of independents who have a lot more right-leaning views, like myself, and you basically are telling us we don't really care if you come out or not, because we're lefties over here. We just got shunned by the Democrat Party. We don't seem to like what the Green Party's doing, so we're going to make a third left-wing third party. So good luck with that, okay? Oh, and then you got Andrew Yang tossing his hat into the ring now. Now he's starting a third party. And I guess it's going to kind of be like the Reform Party, right? Like, we'll even back Democrats, Republicans. We'll back anyone if they've got the right agenda and they support, changing the way the elections work. If they support ranked choice voting, then we can help give you our support as a party too. So, where is this heading? All of these third parties that are coming into play, yeah, now you've got look, third parties were not doing that great to start with. Now when you've got 6 or 7 of them that could be getting talked about in those third party independent circles that don't want to vote Democrat or Republican, you are only dividing up that independent vote even more. Well, how ridiculous is that? Seriously, how ridiculous is that? You're splitting the vote up even more. Now you've got even less of a chance. Because guess what? The two cult camps that will just not stop voting for Democrats and Republicans, they're going to go out and do what they do every 2, 4, and 6 freaking years. And you guys are just splitting your vote up more and more and more and more. Now, hey, I'm not a math genius, but math was Andrew Yang's campaign acronym slogan, right? Make America think harder, math. Okay, so let's use some actual math. If I've got 60% of the country who consider themselves to be independents, and then I got, 22% that consider themselves to be Democrats, and 18%, that consider themselves Republican or whatever. Whatever those numbers come out to, because I don't remember. But I think we do have just over half the country that are that was polled. It was like, we would more or less identify as being independent of the two parties. Okay. So then you've got Green Party. Then you got Libertarian Party. You got Constitution Party. Now there's going to be the People's Party. Then there's going to be Yang's Party. So by the time you've broken down all these third parties, how much of that 50 to 60% do you even have coalescing behind each other? And meanwhile, Democrats and Republicans are going to do what Democrats and Republicans do best. Vote for their party or not vote at all. Mathematically, it becomes easy to see how that large number starts getting whittled away. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I've got hope for electoral politics, but I'm no dummy. And I don't know for a fact that this will actually even work out the way we want it to. Only time will tell, I guess, right? But let me know what you guys think. Is there a real massive hypocrisy going on with the messaging of, this stuff with Biden and the raising of the taxes after all these years? And should this sort of action be waking more people up? And if you agree that it should, then I'm curious on what your thoughts are about why it hasn't. So drop those comments in the comment box down below. If you like this video, give it a good thumbs up. You remember to subscribe to the Lone Wolf Podcast here on YouTube, over on Rockfin. We'll have to start getting content back up on Rumble as well. You can find me there. I just haven't been getting things uploaded over there too much recently. And then also remember to subscribe to the TFP network, the Forbidden Pack Network. That is the network that I've started along with David Spurrier, Stacy for Truth, and Tom Coffey at the moment, of Coffee and Nuance. So you got the Lone Wolf Podcast, the Radical Independent, Stacy for Truth, and Coffee and Nuance. It'll be a hub for all of our channels. So just in case one of these days good old YouTube decides to yank the channel down and we got to try to make a new one, that'll be the hub, and you can find stuff over there. And we're going to be working on getting like promotional content, even some behind the scenes stuff that might not talk about on our usual shows that would be possibly more YouTube friendly to try and promote. We'll be getting stuff like that done over there, and even looking for new people to join. We'll see you next time right here on the Lone Wolf Podcast. Take care, everyone.